Our speaker this morning is Mr. Leif Harbo, the president of the college.
As you know, these are merger festival days. We are very happy to join with our friends in the American Lutheran Church in a larger field of service. I thought then today I would speak briefly on the individual, his worth, his dignity, his uniqueness. There are many facets to this subject, and I can only touch on a few. At Augsburg, we emphasize spiritual values. At Augsburg, we also emphasize ethical and moral values. The Educational Policies Commission has defined these values as those values which, when applied to human behavior, exalt and refine life and bring it into accord with the standards of conduct that are approved in our democratic culture. To this we add from our basic philosophy the Christian message concerning the redemptive act of God in Christ constitutes the greatest potential for good in human life and society. But this potential is realized only insofar as it is actualized in the minds and hearts of individuals. The individual is important. We know that God created man in his image. Much that is good in our country stems from this Christian ideal of the importance and value of each of us. Each has a soul. Each is worthy. Each has dignity. A basic value also in American society is the supreme importance of this individual personality. This is inherent in all the teachings of Christ. And I think we can say that we have in this country a way of life that's unique and precious and something to be infinitely proud of, because we try to protect the individual's religious freedom, his political freedom, his freedom from oppression, his right to an education, and his right to make of himself what he can, this social mobility we may speak of. Well, with these and many other freedoms and rights go responsibilities. Each person must feel responsible for his own conduct, for his own achievement. Well, so we know each person is unique. It's comforting to know that there is no one exactly like me or you. But we have many characteristics in common. We have different combinations and degrees of these combinations. Our founding fathers wrote, "All men are created equal." What do they mean? We know on the face of it that we're not equal in every way. I think they meant two things, among others. First, this ideal of equality was a protest against privilege. And in our day, we have the people who fix things, the 5%ers, who have inside tracks and favoritism. And we oppose this type of inequality. But this ideal of equality also means equality of opportunity. That has many facets. But in education, we believe that everyone is entitled to an education up to the limits of his ability. And to that we have to add his interest and his need. As an example, I would say that we all need understanding, basic understanding of science. Some more become technicians. There are many who become expert in the field of science. And then as we look at what some people do in the field of science, we realize that there seems to be no visible limit to what some people are able to do in this field. Well, equality does not mean the same treatment. There could be a very deadening influence of the average. Equality does mean opportunity, But it doesn't mean that 4 years of college is available for everyone because he couldn't benefit therefrom, nor that graduate school is for everyone. Again, we repeat, up to the limits of ability, need, and interest. Many people have ability, but don't have the interest, and therefore cannot benefit from this equality of opportunity. I think we all realize that more and more there is need for at least high school training, and more training beyond high school, vocational or general college, or university training in some specialized field, or a liberal arts education. We might look then briefly at the requirements for admission. How are they handled so that a person's individual opportunity is protected? We recognize that there are different types of intelligence. There isn't just the one of memorizing. There are many types of intelligence. There's creative ability that we recognize more in some people than in others. There are different rates of maturation. Some of us grow up faster than others. It takes them longer to reach their potential. Others more quickly. And then there are these important factors of motive and drive, which are so difficult to evaluate. What is one man's meat is another man's poison. I assume you've heard that. Some are scholars who study and interpret what others do. Some are doers. Some are creative. Others put ideas into practice and make them work. And we all know that there are some who are leaders in one field are followers in another. All these factors make admission to college a complicated but a very important area. Augsburg has one of its primary objectives in this regard and states to attract to the college students of high ability and genuine religious concern who can reap the maximum benefit from a program of Christian higher education. We need careful and concerned interpretation of the words high ability, so that each unique individual is given full consideration. I would like then to make two emphases. One, your treatment of others in this matter of individual rights, individual worth and dignity, and your treatment of yourself. Do we agree that each person is worthy in the sight of God, and that he has a status of dignity, and that we should treat him as such? And as we look around the world, we know how badly we abuse this statement if it is true, and we trust it is true. And it's easy to look at distant places, at the South in the United States, and what people do in the field of segregation, and forget that we have a problem of our own regarding the colored folk. Or we can look to the Puerto Ricans in New York and state what they should do. What would we do under the same conditions? What do we do about the Indians in Minnesota? Or the Mexican-American migrant workers, in southern Minnesota, in Hollandale, or in the Red River Valley? You see, there are problems right here at home which test our interpretation of God's making man in his own image. And right here at school, right here at home, do you regard the worth of each individual, or do you, on false bases, judge people and make your quick assumptions, which can hurt deeply others? Each individual is worthy of our full consideration. This is a concept of brotherhood, which leads to a broad and expanding humanitarianism, a sympathetic concern for the distress of people, and which I believe is necessary for a full appreciation and understanding of the fatherhood of God. Well, then second, what does this mean for us? As each of us is created in God's image, it seems to me that first we should try to live up to the limits set by God, the limits of our ability. One can't ask you or me to do things beyond our potential, beyond our power. But I think it's psychologically true that most of us don't begin to work up to our potential enough, often enough. You have been endowed by a wise and generous providence with the possibility for growth and development, and you should take advantage of this marvelous opportunity now and all through your life. Second, you need to develop this moral, ethical, spiritual responsibility. You need to develop self-discipline. That, when you come right down to discipline, the only purpose in it is to develop control from within. And these are the signs of maturity. Third, what about rugged individualism? And then the common good. I was reading Judge Leonard Hand and his essay on liberty, and he makes this statement: instill in all a faith that each achieves his personal and individual best by submerging himself in common aspirations, a common fate, a common self. There would be no denial of liberty in that. Nobody would feel himself under alien domination. Each would realize himself in all, and all in each. Judge Hand goes on to discuss the difficulties inherent in this complex of individual rights and common good. Mutual consent is better than violence or dictatorship. There are limits then to rugged individualism caused by our complex society and the needs of others. Fourth, we have the obligation to prepare for essential leadership in church and community. There are a few church-related colleges that only admit to the college those who prepare for direct service to the church, as ministers, as teachers in the church schools, or parish workers. Public colleges emphasize service to the community. We trust that here at Augsburg we can do both. Fifth, then, what is the real significance of your worth, dignity, uniqueness, your right to equality? Surely it is to set your goals high, to take full advantage of opportunity, to strive for excellence in mind, character, expand your creative ability, and develop your spiritual richness. Thus you can fulfill God's plans for you by growing to your full capacity in all your capabilities. Be enthusiastic. I came across a statement by Edward Butler. Every man is enthusiastic at some times. One man has enthusiasm for 30 minutes, another for 30 days. But it is a man who has it for 30 years who makes a success of life. So you see, it takes a lifetime of determined living and worshiping and giving and growing. May we all pray and strive to realize and actualize our potentials in our minds and hearts. In the 8th Psalm, verses 3 to 5, we read, "When I look at thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast established, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou dost care for him? Yet thou hast made him little less than God, and dost crown him with glory and honor." May each of us be worthy of the dignity which God has given us.